Hi, I'm Conrad Marshall, and from the Sydney Morning Herald and The Age, welcome to Good Weekend Talks, a magazine for your ears featuring in-depth conversations with fascinating people from sport and politics, science and culture, business and beyond. Every week you can download new episodes in which top journalists from across our newsrooms talk to compelling people about the definitive stories of the day. In this episode, we speak with Nina Kennedy. The Western Australian was one of the great stories from the Paris Olympics, delivering on so much promise to win gold in the pole vault. She chats to us today about how she got into that somewhat peculiar and dangerous athletic event, how she prepared for the Summer Olympics, and what it felt like in the moment she won her medal. Kennedy is the subject of the cover story for our November Style Edit issue of Good Weekend, and that feature piece, This Way Up, was written by the host of our conversation this week, Good Weekend senior writer Amanda Hooton.
Well, thanks, Conrad, and hello, Nina.
Hello.
It's good to see you again.
Yeah.
So you are back in Sydney, but you've been home in Australia since September, I think. Ooh. Is that right? Or is it October?
Middle of September.
Yeah, okay. Which was when the Diamond League finished in Europe, which you won also as a little icing on the cake after the Olympic gold. And what have you been doing since you got back? You told me you hadn't shifted your pole bag off the porch since you got home. So what have you been doing?
What have I been doing? So I went back to Europe, competed after the Olympics. That was quite draining in a way, but that's just how we get paid. So came back to Australia mid-September and there was a lot of media hype, a lot of things that I was doing. I was traveling to Melbourne and Sydney from Perth and a lot of that kind of stuff. But I've had some fun in there as well, don't you worry. So I went and visited my sister in Byron Bay, spent some time with her, with my little niece. And then I just got back from Tasmania.
Oh, gorgeous.
And that was like an actual bit of a holiday for me. So loved it. Drank some bubbles, put my toes up, did some bushwalking. It was awesome.
So no training yet. I mean, we know and we can talk about that your plan is to, press on to LA. So that's another 4 years away. But you've just actually given yourself a bit of time to bit of R&R.
Yeah.
And take it all in.
Of course. And obviously when you work on a 4-year cycle, like 4-year block, it's kind of like if I'm going to take a good chunk of time off, it's going to be now because I can't take that time off before, the next Olympics. So I've really just, I don't want to say let myself blow out.
Let yourself go.
Let myself go. A little bit, because, you actually need to give your body just time to recover because you're on that fine line, that edge for a year leading up to the Olympics that it's actually healthier to just get off that edge, just relax, let your mind recover as well. So
absolutely. Well, before the Olympics, I often think about what it's like when you're leading up to one of those unbelievably kind of intense moments in your life. Did you have a dream of what you would do when it was all over, or was it like life didn't exist beyond that final and you hadn't even contemplated it?
The latter. You summed that up so well. It was like, for that whole year leading in, like genuinely the whole year, that was like the end point. And I had not thought about the day after, the week after, the month after. It was like, this is what I'm doing. And I think that's something really special about the Olympics and our World Championships and all that, because nothing exists after. Obviously
this
does.
Truly is the brave new world. So let's go back to when you started pole vault. And I remember thinking about this when I was planning on interviewing you and thinking about, what to talk about and stuff. I remember just thinking, having this sort of overwhelming feeling of how does anyone start pole vaulting? Like, it's not just something that some little kid sort of gets up one day and says, I think I'm going to do some pole vaulting today. Like they might go and play netball or they might run around a running track or something. So tell us a bit about the sort of beginning, how pole vault came into your life, as it were.
Okay. So Steve Hooker, curly hair ranger, everyone knows who he is. Well, everyone in Perth knows who he is because he was a Perth local, trained there, won the Olympics in Beijing, and, in Perth it was a really big news story and everyone kind of followed it. And I think about those Olympics as well is that Beijing was the same time zone as Perth.
Ah, okay.
So it was really relevant.
Everybody saw it.
Yes, everybody saw it. So I knew what pole vault was because of that. And I was doing little athletics at the time. And, you know, a few months after Steve's gold, basically I was identified to, you know, you might be a good pole vaulter. I got sent this letter in the mail from, you know, Steve Hooker's training group and was basically said, you know, come try pole vault.
Ah, and now why would you be a good pole vaulter? Just tell us that.
Well, I guess I got identified at this little athletics event because, you know, I guess they saw something in me, speed, coordination, whatever it was.
Because you were a sprinter and a gymnastics kid too, weren't you? So you had those kind of skills already developing.
Yeah, exactly. And then I went to this go and try day and there were maybe 30 kids and we did a bit of everything. We did some sprinting, some strength work, some chin-ups, some long jump, you know, just coordination kind of stuff. And from those 30 kids, there were about 3 left and I was one of them. And I kind of just accidentally fell into pole vault. So, yeah.
Yeah, you've said to me that you feel like pole vault chose you because from that point, you know, you're just kind of doing it, aren't you? And you're going along and then you win things and you think, oh, I seem to be quite good at pole vault.
Yeah.
And I guess pole vault's my thing.
Yeah. And, you know, when you're, you know, 11 or 12, you're not really saying, I'm going to go to the Olympics for this exact thing. It was more like, you know, I enjoy having fun with my friends outside and we get to go to nationals and we get to go on these fun trips together and, you know, you're having all this fun and then, you know, you get to 15 or 16 and all of a sudden you're, you know, the national champion and you're like, oh, wow, maybe I'm good at this.
And actually you weren't much older than that when you won the you got a new world junior record in pole vault.
Yeah.
Were you?
Yeah.
So you knew you had talent.
Yeah. I was 17, I was almost 18 and I broke the world junior record.
That's
so
right.
It was almost like, wow, like I'm really good at this.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say all that path happened quite easily, but, you know, when you're that age, you're kind of just going with the flow. And, you know, I had some setbacks, but, you know, nothing like when I got into my senior career. And I guess from breaking the world junior record, it was like, okay, this is my thing and this is my path to the Olympics and let's see how far I can take this thing.
Yeah, exactly. And actually that was one of the things that you mentioned to me. We've talked about this in the story in Good Weekend about the moment or the period really where you sort of took stock of your career a little bit, sort of I think in your early 20s and sort of really cemented your commitment to the Olympic dream and to pole vault and to what you sort of wanted to get out of the whole thing.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that period and sort of how that sort of changed your view of yourself and what you could achieve.
Yeah. So I guess from 17 until about 21, 22, there were 5 years there where, you know, I missed the Rio Olympics. That was really hard. I'd, you know, competed at a world championships, but I came dead last. And, you know, going from a junior athlete to a senior athlete is so incredibly difficult. And that 5 years was really hard. And I think at that stage as well, you know, all your friends are going to uni and getting jobs and traveling, and I was very much on this different path, and I just kind of felt like I was drifting through this new kind of different career that I was on, and I guess I didn't really have much direction. And I was a good athlete, don't get me wrong, but I wasn't making an Olympic final. I wasn't even qualifying for the Olympics. So COVID hit and competition was stopped. Everything was, you know, moved back a year. The Olympics were pushed back a year. That was, you know, 2021 they were at. So COVID 2020. I guess it just gave me a chance to stop, reflect. What the hell am I doing? Am I just drifting through life? Like, what? I just asked myself some really tough questions, you know. Why are you doing this sport? What do you want to get out of it? And, you know, how are you going to do that? So it was just a really good time to be with myself and be with my thoughts and read books and listen to podcasts and almost just, I don't want to say go on this self-discovery journey because that sounds a bit woo-woo, but in a way that it was like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so how did you answer those questions when you asked them of yourself? What did you decide? Did you decide, I actually want to win an Olympic gold medal? That's what I want?
It was. I don't think it was that strong at the point, but it was like I want to see what my potential is, because I guess that's what I kind of owe to myself. I don't want to look back on my career and think, I gave 90%. I want to look back on it and say, I gave everything I had. 100% of what existed in me, I gave to this sport, and I just want to see what my potential is. And I think that's like really exciting, because I don't know what my potential is.
How did it go when you, having sort of come to that sort of realisation and then attempting to implement it in the real world, how did it all kind of go for you? You had some pretty good results pretty quickly and then some setbacks. What were the kind of high points and maybe the low points between, that point and then coming up to the Olympic final?
Yeah, so 2020 was when all that happened. Early 2021, I broke the Australian record.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So that was kind of an indicator that, wow, like I'm on the right path here. I'm the best Australian woman to ever do this. I jumped 482 was the Australian record. So just for some context, 485 won bronze at Paris just gone. So,
Oh, wow. So that's
yeah, it's a great jump.
That's a really good jump.
It's a great height. So, I definitely felt like I was on the right path. So, I went into those Tokyo Olympics with a goal to make the podium. I think at that time it was just like I'm going to dream as big as I can and see what happens. But I didn't, down to my core, believe that I could do that, right? So I went into the 2021 Olympics and, I got injured, just before, had some really big setbacks and a bit of a COVID scare in the village.
That's
so I had to leave the village, and Tokyo was just like a really hard time. I didn't make the final. I think in the end I came 13th, and that was just kind of another setback in my career. But I'd had so many that I knew how to deal with it, I guess.
Yeah, and you did deal with it really well, I think. You sort of you actually kind of didn't even want to jump, did you? But you said, no, you've just got to go out there and act according to your values and be proud of what you can do in that moment.
Yeah.
And so that's probably a really valuable kind of thing to actually to get through, I guess, to know you can survive it.
It was like, in all honesty, it was the hardest thing I've ever dealt with, like ever. But I think what was like, I don't want to say that I would change that moment, but it is really just when you hit rock bottom, the only way is up, like genuinely. And that's really when you find out who you are and what your values are and like, what do you care about.
Yeah.
And, the only way is up from there.
I mean, I know a lot of that journey that you sort of went on from that COVID period kind of onwards was a kind of it was sort of fine-tuning all your physical sort of stuff, wasn't it? It was trying to deal with, you've got your back injury, which seems like a chronic injury, and then your leg, your takeoff leg that you've had multiple problems with over the years. But what about the mental journey? Because you talk about, you didn't maybe at that point really believe deep down in your core that you could win gold, but you just thought, well, the podium. Yeah. How did you change your kind of mental view, or what happened to your mindset in those years to make you believe you could get gold?
Yeah, and I guess it's obviously really important to preface that, going into the 2024 Olympics, to my core, I really believe that I could win. Yeah. But if you had asked me the year before if I thought I could win, I would have said no.
Only a year before, right?
And then, the year before that, I would have said definitely no. And I think it's really important that, this self-belief journey, it really is a snowball.
Journey. Yeah.
So I guess how that snowball started was seeing a sports psych and just getting back to the basics and, at its core, I run down the runway with a pole and I jump over this bar, and that is just this one skill that I have to execute to the best of my ability. It's not a football game or a netball game where there's forever changing plays and conditions and all that.
variables. Yeah.
Yeah, pole vault's quite simple. Well, I know you're going to laugh at that, but
it doesn't sound simple at all. But yes, I take your point.
You see my point. So it was really just getting back to basics, controlling the things that I control, and at its core, mastering my skill. And once I'd mastered my skill, and I genuinely at those Olympics felt like I could pole vault with my eyes closed.
Wow.
Because I had just done that skill and gone through my processes, and I knew my routine back to front. That's when that self-belief can kind of creep in a little bit, right? Because you've laid the foundation, you've got that cake, and that cherry on top is that self-belief, right?
Yeah, because that always strikes me as the bit that is almost impossible to control. And I think maybe I'm wrong about that, because obviously you get to a point where your mental attitude is as solid as your physical ability. You know you're not going to have a sort of last-minute panic, at the start of your run, or you're not going to just wake up on the morning of the Olympics and just freak out and not be able to do it. So by the time the Olympics came around, you felt as solid mentally as you did physically. Is that fair?
I believed in myself, like, to my core, but that doesn't excuse and that doesn't stop those negative thoughts, that second guessing yourself still coming in, right? It was like, Nina, what if I come third, or like, what if I don't make the podium, or what if I don't jump to my potential, or what if I screw up in front of the whole of Australia who expects me to win? Those thoughts don't stop. But I think what's really important is that I had learned the skills to how to see those thoughts for what they are. My brain is just, in a fight or flight, it's responding to fear and it's just doing its job. So thanks thoughts, thanks brain, but I don't need you right now because I got to go compete at an Olympic final.
Tell me about the day before the Olympics. Tell me what happened on that day.
Well, you know this story, but I think this story really kind of sums up the emotion of the Olympics and the emotion of the journey. So qualifying was on the Monday, final was on the Wednesday. On the Tuesday, I had the day off and I went and saw my partner, who I hadn't seen in 2 months because I'd been competing overseas before, and I just went to his apartment in Paris and we just hung out, made lunch, hung out, watched some movies and just really chilled out before that final. And I remember just seeing him and hugging him and just like bawling my eyes out for like 15 minutes because I just had this pent up emotion and anxiety, and it was the day before the biggest event of my whole life, and I just let it all out. And he was like, oh my God, like, what is happening? Like, she's gonna blow up at the Olympics, like this is all over, she's doomed. But kind of once I let that cry and got it all out of my system and let all that weight off my shoulders, I just felt in such a better place to kind of tackle what was ahead the next day.
Yeah, absolutely. You were really ready. Yeah. It's a great story. I love it. It's an impossible feeling probably to describe and even to imagine. But how did it feel once you did win?
How did it feel?
Was it just relief? I know you must have been asked this a million times. It's a terrible
And you know what?
cliche.
I still don't even know the bloody answer, I think, because it was just, I'd been doing this sport for 15 years and it was like I had this one thing in my career that I wanted to achieve, which was the Olympic gold medal. And then it just happened and it was like, holy shit.
It's actually happened.
Kennedy for Australia. She climbs and she flies. She flies.
Like, I can't believe I just did that. And a lot of people were like, yeah, you must be so relieved. And it wasn't relief. It was really like, I'm so proud of myself and my team for just dreaming as big as we can and doing it.
Well, here she is, Australia, your new golden girl.
Hello, everyone, wake up.
I think we're awake. But are you or are you dreaming?
No, I'm here. I'm a gold medalist. That is so sick.
It is just unbelievable. I mean,
and it was like, guys, I'm so proud of us. Like,
yes.
Hell yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
One of your friends I spoke to when I was in WA doing the interviews, and she said that the whole experience to her had felt like a dream. Like in the afternoon of after the final was over, so it was in the evening. And she was thinking, I feel like I'm going to wake up and it's going to be the morning of Nina's final and we're going to go and watch her, because the whole thing just felt like
a dream,
a continuation of a dream that,
yeah.
you know, and I guess now you've had plenty of time to kind of come to grips with it and it's just a fact of your life now, right?
Yeah, it is. And I think what I will take from Paris, which are the most memorable things and the things that I will remember, will be like those memories straight after with, you know, my girlfriends and with my family and with my partner. We were just all kind of looking at each other. You know, we had a few drinks in us at this point, but we're like, oh my God, like we did that. And it was just like the best night ever and the best week after, and just these memories that will like genuinely last a lifetime and will be my favourite.
Yeah, some of the very best memories of your life, I reckon.
Yeah, you could possibly make.
Yeah, it's unreal. And so, unsurprisingly, maybe given how great the last few months have been, your plan now is to go on to LA, I think. Is that is still the plan?
Yes, it's still the plan.
So
yeah.
I know your coach, Paul Burgess, who got you all the way through the Olympics and who you'd had for many years, he's resigned, and so he won't be coaching you from here on in. So tell us a bit about what's happened with your sort of training, what your training plan is, your coaching sort of scenario. What's the setup now?
Yeah, so what's the plan? The plan is to just keep moving forward. You know, I think the thing about Olympic athletes is that it's quite complicated coaching-wise, because, you know, we do train out of our state institute. So when there is a bit of a breakdown between coach staff and, you know, the institute, it can kind of quite make it difficult for high performance and all the parties to kind of work together. So yeah, I'm definitely nervous going into this Olympic cycle without him. I know he'll still be in my corner in a really great way. You know, we did amazing things together, but yeah, I'm nervous.
You're going to stay with Wace and keep working with, I think that you've got another coach who's still at Wace, and is that the plan, to stay within that system?
You know, I'm at a point in my life where I'm not going to move state.
No.
You know, Perth is home and my friends are there, my family's there, my partner's there, and what I've really learned about my career is that when Nina, like the person, is really happy and content and comfortable, Nina the athlete thrives. So, I definitely won't be going anywhere else.
And then what is, is there any likelihood, how long do people keep pole vaulting? Could you conceivably go to Brisbane, or do you reckon you might give it a rest
8
after?
years, girl.
Maybe not. That is a long time away.
It's a long time. You know what? I'm not saying no. You know, pole vault, well, Katie Moon, who came second at the Olympics, she's like 31.
Wow.
Or 32.
Okay.
So
so you'll be 31 in LA, is that right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So look, if I'm still motivated, if I'm still having fun and I don't think I've reached my potential, then, you know, maybe I will keep going after LA, but I have a sneaky suspicion that I probably won't be.
Well, I think that's completely fine. You don't have to have an 8-year plan at this point. Look, whatever happens next, and well, we know what's going to happen next, but however it all turns out, it's been so fantastic hearing about your journey to this point, and we really look forward to seeing, you know, the next chapter.
Thanks,
so thanks
Amanda.
so much for coming.
No,
it's
I've
been
enjoyed
great
it.
to talk to you.
Thanks.
That was Amanda Hooton interviewing gold medal winning pole vaulter Nina Kennedy on the latest Good Weekend Talks. If you enjoyed this episode, please remember to subscribe, rate and comment wherever you get your podcasts, and keep tuning in for more compelling conversations. Coming soon, we chat with the GOAT of surfing, 8-time world champion Stephanie Gilmore. Good Weekend Talks is brought to you by the Sydney Morning Herald and The Age, proud newsrooms powered by subscriptions. To support independent journalism, search Subscribe Sydney Morning Herald or The Age. This episode of Good Weekend Talks is produced by Chi Wong. Editing from Conrad Marshall. Tom McKendrick is head of audio, and Katrina Strickland is the editor of Good Weekend.